Next up, we have a panel with the Lotus team and the Forest team. So can I get the panelists up on stage? Hello, everyone. Welcome to a panel discussion with members of the Forest and Lotus teams, the implementations of the Filecoin protocol. These are 2 out of 4 protocol implementations, so it's a great honor to be here live with everybody after shipping a mainnet together while being remote and distributed through a global pandemic and so on, so it's really great to be hanging together. Look forward to actually getting the whole crew, all of the 4 implementations together at some point, maybe in FIL Singapore or another event. So what I want to talk about today is just what it's like to work on the tech that you're making. So I want to dive into the protocols that you're making, the implementations, how you work as a team, how you've grown as individuals, what inspires you about the tech that we're building, and so on. So let's just get started with some straightforward introductions about you, who you are, what your roles and responsibilities are in your team, and what you find exciting about Web3. So maybe we can start over here.
Okay, cool. Hello. So hi, I'm Elizabeth. I work at ChainSafe. I was previously the engineering lead or tech lead or whatever you want to call it on Forest. So over the past few months, I have given that role to someone else, so I'm no longer that, but worked on Forest for a while. And then other than that, what do I like about Web3? I guess I think I probably like it for the same reasons as everyone else. Decentralizes power, gives it back to the people, that kind of thing. So, pass it to Lee.
Cool. Thank you again for having us here. I'm Lee. I work for ChainSafe and very closely with the Lotus team and Filecoin on a day-to-day basis. What my day-to-day looks like, putting out fires. That's kind of what it looks like. But jokes aside, it's mostly getting things up to speed with the team. Mostly communication, cross-collaboration work, and getting things done. That's usually what it looks like. What do I like about the Web3 space? Narrating the same things. I think it's quite different. I wasn't there when the internet was booming during the early days, 70s, 80s, but now I'm here, so that's really exciting for me. And specifically what I like about the Filecoin in general, I think people still don't understand the importance that a storage protocol has to provide for the Web3 space, and it's very early, and to be at the front seat of this, is really truly exciting, and I think very few people understand that as of today. Hopefully, by the next few years.
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer from the Lotus team at Protocol Labs. I'm the TPM of Lotus. I think Lee and it's already covered why we are interested in Web3. I want to talk about why I am excited about Filecoin network itself, because a lot of other public blockchain network, people has to develop a lot of different use cases powered by those technologies. However, Filecoin network itself is a huge use case of itself as the largest storage network in the human history. I would say one of those ones. So to work with amazing human beings to build towards that really excites me. I also was a community engineer within the Filecoin community, so I have this love and hate relationship with a lot of the storage providers or developers, all the clients inside of the Filecoin ecosystem. But at the end of the day, we are building towards the same goal, and that makes me have a lot of fun in my day-to-day work, and also along with the success of the cat we have at the Lotus team. So that's a default that we have to talk about.
Hey folks, my name is Ayush. Thanks for having us here today. I'm from the Lotus team as well. I had the sheer dumb luck to stumble into this team 2.5 years ago, and it's been good ever since. I think in terms of why Web3 is exciting and Filecoin in particular, I would also say that I think we're all aligned with the mission, but for me personally, the motivation is very much around the problems that are here to be solved. Maybe it's selfish, but there are very, very hard, interesting problems to be solved in this space. And I interned widely before kind of landing in this space, and so I know that not every domain has the same level of has the same challenge, and that is why I am here. There are smart people solving difficult problems, and that just makes for a lot of fun, genuinely.
Yeah, it's super interesting. What are the kinds of hard problems that you find super interesting? And
Yeah,
that'll be a
so
question for everyone.
Sorry?
That'll be, and I'll follow up with interesting problems for everyone.
Yeah, totally. So with me, in many cases, it comes down to kind of keeping up with the space and how quickly the tech is evolving. This is obviously a relatively new space. Filecoin as a project, has been live for almost 2 years now, has evolved a lot within that time. And this is really innovation in a bunch of different domains. Like last year, we introduced the ability to aggregate these already magical proof of replication statements that we had. We had the ability to now aggregate 819 of them into a single statement. And first off, you have to understand what's going on and then figure out how to evolve your software quickly in order to deliver that kind of promise. This year is bringing the Filecoin virtual machine to the network, which is a very, very different kind of innovation. And so understanding the technologies involved here, whether that's new programming languages, WASM, or just the innovation that we're trying to unlock, and then speedily be able to ship that to your users because everyone is very, very hungry. You have people snapping at your heels saying, why is this not here? And so I think, yeah, keeping up with the amount that things are changing and the pace of delivery makes for a really fun environment.
Yep.
I think Ayush covers like pretty much about the technical challenges that we have in the Filecoin network. For me, it's like interacting with human being is like interesting issues like community building or coordinating across different teams because we're building a decentralized network with distributed teams. Everyone is like allocated, globally, have different like personalities, like work ethics, different pace of like working, different. We share the same goal or like the vision for the Filecoin network, but the way that everyone works towards that is kind of different. So for me, particularly interacting with the communities or like TPMs for the other teams or the ecosystem teams, like how to charge the needs for the Filecoin users, how do we prioritize all these needs for the Filecoin network itself and communicating and ship this. Okay, almost said the bad thing, but like ship the things together is like quite challenging, but also I have a lot of fun just like interacting with all these people.
Yeah.
Okay, what interesting problems in this space. Sorry, that was the initial question, right?
Yeah, what interesting problems, challenges, things that you find like exciting to work on.
Yeah, definitely echoes with what Jennifer mentioned, and specifically for me, the Forest team is in Europe, so when I wake up, it's things from European side, and then PT's time zone, you guys wake up, I think, because, a lot of the team is in San Francisco, so my day goes like, whoosh, so that's definitely a challenge on a personal level, but for when it comes to working on specifically on Filecoin related things, I think it's still a very open air field that we are at this point. We really don't really know what we will be able to do with decentralized storage when it's finally at a position where it has solidified itself. In the same way, like back in the Ethereum days, ICOs was a very big use case, but rarely people do things like that anymore. And I think we compare today with centralized storage providers like AWS, Google Cloud, but I think that's just the very lowest level of the fruit. And to find these areas where, okay, this is where the product might be really useful, right? Or this is something that people really want when they really haven't really seen anything like that before. I think that's really challenging, but also that's like super interesting in a way because we are yet to see the world that has not not the fact that it has been developed, or we are yet to see something that hasn't been. How do you build something with electricity before the invention of electricity? And that's kind of the challenges that I personally see as we go forward in building. Okay, what kind of features to build, or what kind of use cases or users we are looking towards. But I'll pass it on to Elizabeth. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I guess overall, I think in general in the space, maybe not just Filecoin, but just like everything in general. Like I think some of the biggest challenges are decentralization, like true decentralization, and privacy. I think these two together are like what we actually need to create systems that are actually different and provide completely different, I don't know, novel use cases and that kind of thing from existing systems. I think one or the other is like probably not enough. Yeah, I think decentralization is a really interesting one because there was, I think recently there was the DARPA article, what's it called? The one done by Trail of Bits, basically saying like Ethereum and Bitcoin can be taken down by like 4 nodes or something like that. So I think that's something that we should, I don't know, take seriously, I guess. It's interesting that, I don't know, decentralization is obviously really important, and we need to make sure that we actually decentralize things. So I think, yeah, stuff like that is probably the biggest challenge in general in the space. Yeah, and then I guess like on Filecoin specifically and decentralized storage, yeah, like kind of relating to what I said earlier, just like truly decentralizing everything, making sure that obviously that it's very usable for people, that yeah, that there's like reasons people would want to use it, that people really understand why they're using it and that kind of thing. Yeah, and then also like from the day-to-day like technical side, like yeah, similar to what Ayush said, like there's a lot of technical challenges that are very novel that haven't really been implemented anywhere else, like the FEM, like the whole WASM interpreters, like basically like yeah, like the whole entire system, like a lot of the proofs and that kind of thing. Yeah, so there's like challenges I'd say from like the highest level and down to like the lowest technical level.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's dive into the implementations and the nodes. So both of these are implementations of the Filecoin protocol. Both of them keep consensus, help maintain the security of the network. They bring client diversity to the network. But how are they different? What do the implementations specialize in? What sort of like sets your implementation apart? Maybe starting with the Lotus team.
Yeah, so Lotus has been interestingly positioned here because I think we never had to fight for our users. Lotus was kind of the implementation that the Filecoin network launched with, and so we aimed to do everything well enough, and we continue to do everything well enough today. So there's a lot of different use cases for an implementation of the Filecoin protocol. You might be using it as a node operator because you're just interested in following the chain. You might be a storage provider, in which case you're sealing storage and accepting deals, winning blocks, and so on, or maybe you're a storage client. Lotus is currently continuing to serve all of those use cases, and increasingly we're trying to find ways to either push some of that out of Lotus by building tooling on top of it, or by finding good fits for other implementations and other teams to kind of specialize. I think increasingly the kind of core deal-making aspect is being pulled out of Lotus and being worked on by other teams. And I think when I personally think that is where there is the greatest scope for innovation and improvement. And so I think, yeah, so Lotus is kind of focusing on syncing the blockchain, delivering the kind of core principle, and delivering the storage providing and sealing aspect. Although Venus is doing Venus couldn't be here, unfortunately, but they're doing some really, really cool work and innovating in the block producing and storage providing side of things. I'm interested in seeing innovation on the deal making and kind of Filecoin as a product aspect.
Okay, I can answer that a bit. So I think something Elizabeth mentioned before on decentralization, right? So taking a bit from my memory, I remember the Filecoin back in 2017 when you guys did an ICO, right? And after that, over time, I had kept reading about it, and when I saw storing humanity's most important data, right? I was like, okay, right? But over time, right? The reason why I say it is like, wow, these guys are actually doing it, compared to a lot of projects that then, and that really hooked me over in the last couple of years. Where like, wow, really actually delivering things, starting with IPFS, which is still one of the most decentralized tech for storage that is mostly used by the developer community, right? And as we go forward in time, where our mission is basically to store humanity's most important information and become the de facto, like how the I remember when there's something on the website where Alexandria's library was basically burned, and that information was basically kind of lost, right? And if we're going into the future where in the next decades, centuries, we are going to store this most valuable information for humanities, and maybe most of us won't be there by then, 200, 300 years from then, decentralization is one of the most important factors, and that's where we come in. That okay, it's not just Lotus, which is the reference implementation, but also some other implementations that you can use for basic consensus needs, or kind of whatever specific needs you have to be. And the difference here in in a very from a fundamental level is like where Rust client, we have different Rust versus Go allows us to do certain things differently and uniquely, and in a different way. Go has its own pros, Rust has its own performance, things like that, and that's where we are different, and we're still figuring out where we can be really differentiate ourselves as we go for the network. Maybe you can talk about a little bit on Rust things.
Yeah, sure, yeah. So yeah, I enjoy both Go and Rust, but I think for Forest, Rust has some really good advantages. So yeah, one of the main ones is now that we have the FVM, it's like, which is basically written in Rust. It's compiled down to WASM and executed and that kind of thing. So basically with Forest, you can now run the FVM natively, I suppose. So you don't have to compile it, you can just run directly the Rust code. So this is really nice for things like debugging. Basically, you don't have to go through the whole WASM interpreter that basically makes it impossible to debug or like really hard. So yeah, I think that's like a really big plus. So hopefully we can make some nice debugging tooling based on that. I think that would be really nice. Yeah, other than that, I don't know, normal Rust things, like it's memory safe, it's, I don't know, nice and fast and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think for Filecoin, I think the usage of the FVM is really gonna bring a lot of value to Forest.
Yeah, I'd like to quickly follow up on this. I think it's interesting because I think in many ways this question is potentially unanswered, at least on the Lotus team. And I think this is something that we need to kind of figure out what subset of Filecoin's many use cases we would like to target towards our users. In many ways, a challenge, and the reason why that maybe hasn't happened already across implementations is kind of what I alluded to earlier. I think potentially a lot of our implementations do spend a lot of their time keeping up with the pace of innovation that's already happening in Filecoin. So kind of trying to identify a core principle and target a specific group of users becomes a little bit of a challenge while you're racing to keep up with the pace at which the protocol is evolving. It's a very, very good problem to have, but I do wonder if that's kind of the threat that's evolving there. And I think it would be, I do think this is really, really useful if in, say, the next year, the various implementations do kind of naturally evolve towards targeting specific users, because we'll be able to do that better. There's too much for, I think, at least personally, for speaking for the Lotus team, there's too much happening in Filecoin to try to do it all, and specializing will give us a lot of benefit here. And with Forest here, I think you folks are uniquely well positioned to kind of identify a core group as we start to use your tech more, and there's probably space for a fully Rust implementation and advantages that get unlocked from that that will probably emerge over the next year.
Embedded devices. Yeah. Speaking of evolution, what's coming up in the next few quarters? So can you tell us about your roadmap, like what's coming in Q3 and Q4? Whoever wants to start.
Do you guys want to go, or?
We can go first.
Sure.
I guess like one of the shared goal as all the implementations will continue shipping Filecoin network upgrades, either by doing some refactors on the system actors to make the actors themselves more user programmability in preparation of Filecoin virtual machine M2 milestone 2, which is like shipping EVM and native like WASM runtime onto the Filecoin network so that users can deploy their own smart contract and building their own use cases. So shipping the protocol improvement, that will be one of the things that all the implementation teams will be working on. And for Lotus implementation ourselves, as we all know, like data onboarding onto the Filecoin network is going like, straight up these days. So we are like 1 PB per week, maybe, I don't know, like with evergreen program like that. So as more users try to onboarding data into the Filecoin network, as we mentioned earlier, there are other teams that's working on market implementation. Lotus, as the Lotus Miner, which has a lot of storage provider that are using, we have to be able to scale up and keep up with that deal onboarding things so that all these data are stored in the sectors onto the Filecoin network. So that's another focus we have. Also, chain states probably is growing faster. Filecoin network is already huge. I think we're at 17 TB for Filecoin network chain. How, this space is limited. We want to make sure users can do chain management really easily. So we are going to introduce in Split Store, which is a better chain management strategy for user to keep like hot storage and cold storage for different set of the chain states. We're also going to be working on like improving our APIs to support like smart contract development and like supporting the developer community to build on top of Lotus, on top of Filecoin. However, I do feel like that might be the strong suit for the Forest implementation. We'll see. We'll figure that one out. But other than that, a lot of like a million small little issues we're trying to solve, but those are the big ones, I think, for Q3 at least.
Yeah, on our end, I think the FVM development was a really interesting thing that happened in the last year that gave, I think, Forest team more focus indirectly, and something that Ayush had mentioned before. There's so many things that are happening, and because Lotus is one of the reference implementations, they're usually ahead, or they have more things going on than the other implementations. But with the FVM coming in, I think that really helped to focus and narrow things down for us indirectly in a way. And as we go forward, I think the most important things that are in the roadmap is to clean up and make Forest very lean and nimble. The code that has been gone into the built-in actors repo or generally in FVM, we can decouple that finally. Once we are able to decouple that, we'll have a very lean skeleton in a way, and that's what I'm really excited about now. That's what makes things like protocols really great, right? The general thing that you have like Ethereum or Filecoin, and on top of that you give developers or people the creativity to build things that, which none of us have probably thought about. Also from ChainSafe, one of our vision and goal for the company is to onboard, Web3 developers a lot, from the Web2 space or not, and help them build the right things, help them build the right applications, with some sense of direction to contribute meaningful things and projects into the Web3 space. And hopefully Forest can help with the FVM foundry that's kind of going on, and just work with these development teams to onboard more and more developers into the space. Hopefully more Rust developers, Rust ecosystem, and let them build things that they have never, envisioned that the crypto ecosystem didn't have seen before. Sorry, stumbling on my words there, Elizabeth.
Yeah, I don't really have much for this question.
Great. So blockchain systems create this very interesting dynamic with multiple teams across different organizations building the same or similar protocol implementations that need to interop and need to evolve together, right? So traditional internet protocols tend to get defined in a spec. They tend to ossify. You build a few implementations. They interop, and that's kind of that. Maybe some new implementations might emerge, but for the most part, evolution kind of stalls. The blockchain systems are very different. They evolve constantly. Many new kinds of improvements are coming into directly in protocol layers and causing several protocol implementations to have to evolve together. And so this presents, of course, a phenomenal set of challenges and opportunities for teams to work together and collaborate. So what are some of the, can you tell us what it's like to collaborate together across teams through internet infrastructure, through things like GitHub and calls and whatnot? What works well, what doesn't work, what would you want to improve? So maybe starting here with the Lotus team.
Yeah, sure. A single sentence answer, it's hard. It's really goddamn hard. Especially when you're trying to achieve that kind of cross-team collaboration in a very fast-paced environment. I think my single biggest takeaway is that the same approach really does not work from partnership to partnership. So yeah, my pearl of wisdom would be every every team tuple winds up inventing like the model of communication that works for them. And obviously time zones complicate things a lot here. The Venus team, for instance, is primarily based in East Asia. And so anytime we have sync meetings, it's often very difficult to get them involved, which is a shame. That really limits the amount of participation that you can have. So I think things that have worked are having a robust operation in place for cross-team communication, and the Filecoin Foundation has really been playing that role more and more for communication across the kind of core implementation teams, and also these various other teams that are kind of hovering around the Filecoin space that have insight into or expertise to contribute to. For example, the team thinking about crypto economics on Filecoin, or the team thinking about the core proofs in Filecoin, which is kind of these different independent teams. So yeah, but overall it is still a often convoluted and sometimes messy process in order to make sure that everyone is aligned. There's a lot going on. People are focused on many different things. Implementation teams are uniquely positioned here, at least speaking for Lotus, where I feel like we are often the team that's most focused on the immediate term goals, because there's a network upgrade coming up in a month, and that is what I want to talk about. But that is not always the focus of, say, the research teams, who have much more, year-long goals. And so trying to get that kind of mutual investment and alignment on what the priority should be and what needs attention is also a source of difficulty. But like these are all like problems the space is kind of set up to have, because you wind up getting better decisions out of it. It would be, I don't know if it would be easy, but it would probably be possible to put together some kind of traditional process in place in which we say, these are the 7 steps that any decision goes through, and you can pull it out of the first management textbook you find. But I don't think that's what we want to do, because I think the chaos drives a lot of the innovation and leads to the fact that everyone feels open to sharing an opinion, regardless of whether they've opened any PRs in the Filecoin spec or anything, leads to better decisions overall. I feel like we keep coming back to the FVM, but I feel like we really saw this happen in the past 6 months, where 2 folks, the initial FVM team was kind of a couple people just writing up these design proposals, and folks from genuinely around the world who were already active members of the Filecoin ecosystem, or who had potentially never really thought about Filecoin but had VM experience in other blockchains, got involved and were like, no, this idea you have is terrible, and let me tell you why, because I made this mistake 2 years ago. So yeah, that's my long-winded way of saying it is a difficult problem, but I think finding a system that works does lead to overall good decisions.
So for me, it's like, as hard as I used to describe like the problem to be, for me it's like maybe just about like 100% like harder than that. So like before I fully engage with like the Andreas team at Protocol Labs or the Lotus team, as I mentioned, I actually work as like community engineer to be this like user-facing people for the Filecoin network. Again, like when we first launched testnet, like space race before the mainnet left off, we are the face of the Filecoin network. We were the face of like Filecoin protocol. So like at that time, I talk to Storage Feather every day, the Lotus users. We do a lot of like partner support. We do a lot of exchange support, make sure they list like Filecoin. Then we slowly talk to other implementation team like Forest and Venus. Like you said, like every user group or anyone that you're interacting with have different focus of the protocol or the software or the technology you're building. So you have to take different approach to share the like most important information with them in the way that's most effective. Hopefully, that's what we did. But for me, at least, from like the Lotus team today, for the second half of the year, I feel like we will be actually focused a lot to be sharing a lot of the information. Like I mentioned, we connect with the community a lot, basically the user of the Filecoin network. We also connect with different teams like Consensus Lab, Crypto Econ team, or like CryptoNet, all those teams. They feed us a lot because like we have this natural privilege. Like everyone is like, okay, Lotus is the implementation that's gonna help us to ship the thing. So they feed information to us. Sometimes like Forrest or maybe Venus doesn't necessarily knows, okay, this is what's going on with FEM. This is what the research team is working on for the Filecoin network. I feel like for me, it's very important to have either sync or async conversation with the other like implementers or like other engineers among the core dev, or like I hope we have more people joining the core dev meetings to talk about like all these visions and future ideas that we are building for the Filecoin network. I think we shouldn't be scared of like stepping on each other's toes, like for me it's like oversharing is always better than limited information. So I think that will be the approach, at least from the Lotus team, we will be taking across the core dev or like core implementers team for the Filecoin network.
Yes, I think Jennifer and Ayush and the Lotus team covered a lot of things. One additional thing maybe I would like to share as well. Something that I don't know, it's very different than just traditional, if you're, let's say, working in a Web2 company in remote things, a lot of these problems are same. But I think what's really unique, and especially for node implementations, is the decision-making process. And that's where things become really difficult, because as a decentralized process and a node implementators, or as a decentralized governance process, you don't want to have a top to bottom down approach where you want to say, okay, we are doing this, you do that as well, or just follow the suit, right? So our decision-making process is very decentralized as well, and that's something very new, right? Like if you are, let's say, like one of the big tech companies, Facebook, Google, the decision-making process is mostly, we can assume that is probably top to down, but for protocol level works, and especially node implementations, we have to kind of not dictate, as well at the same time be able to make a decision and to come to that decision, okay, whether if this is the FIP that's going to be implemented, or this is kind of the features that we are going to agree upon for our users, it's very new, and it's definitely very difficult. And I think there's a lot of work to be done as Filecoin, as crypto community, to kind of improve those and finally find a stable process that kind of works, right? That'll be my input here.
Cool. Yeah. Mostly concur with what's been said so far. I guess one thing that I felt like we did pretty well was like communication in general. Like generally, we'd have meetings pretty often. We communicate the upcoming updates pretty often. Occasionally, like we would jump on each other's code bases and like fix things, which was really nice. So I think stuff like that is actually like really helpful. Like actually not being afraid to just like, push something to someone else's repo or whatever. And then, I guess the decision making is definitely like something, very challenging because, I think in different blockchain projects, we kind of see different decision-making processes. Like some are still very top-down and very, Web2-ish. People just kind of make the decisions and then you kind of just have to implement it. You don't really have a say. Other ones are more decentralized. So I think there's pros and cons to both. Like definitely the top-down is maybe more efficient, but then you kind of feel a little bit, maybe you don't agree with the decision. You like don't really, you would implement it somehow another way or something like that. But it's, faster in some ways. But I think overall, leaning towards a decentralized decision-making approach would probably be better. Not, yeah, it kind of depends like on the people involved, I guess, and kind of how you want to go about it. So, yeah.
Thank you. These are awesome descriptions and lots of really great opportunities for people to develop as engineers and product builders and TPMs and leaders and so on in these teams. I think it's like super, it's a super challenging space. It's a fast evolving space. It can lead to a lot of individual and personal growth. I'd love to now dive into your teams and talk about kind of what is the makeup of your team, speak to maybe the size of it, what roles do you have, what is the culture, what do you enjoy about working together and so on. Maybe starting here.
Sure. Our team, let me see. We're total, I think, seven people at the moment, maybe 6 if I'm counting it right. Yeah. So most of the team, I'm the TPM, and rest are all engineers. We have 60% senior engineers and 40% would say more on the junior level. That's kind of the makeup of the team. Distributed, yeah, almost everybody is from a different country except for 2 guys who are in US, and and everybody is, one is from Poland, one is from France, Denmark, Germany, so very distributed in that sense. How we work, general agile processes we have sprint plannings, we have daily 15-minute stand-ups, then we have retros and backlog refinements for our issues, but our code is open source, and anybody can go look, audit, see, find bugs, make PRs. That's mostly our work when it comes to the code level. On a day-to-day basis, when we are not catching up with network upgrades, we try to focus on really finding key things that can make Forest useful, right? So, for example, if Lotus is having the entire ledger or the syncing from Genesis, okay, maybe Forest probably doesn't need to. It can do something, have a more recent snapshot of, and then we can probably work with that. That's generally what on the Forest side we try to do, but also when the network upgrades come, I think it's a lot of like we have discussed, race to kind of getting it done. On an execution side, that's. Am I missing something here? Yeah.
No, yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess. On the day-to-day, I guess a lot of it is like implementing new features. Very novel stuff, I suppose, that just like really has not been done. A lot of I don't know, bug fixes sometimes. Like definitely as the code base gets larger and time goes on, there's always things that kind of accumulate, like tech debt. You always kind of feel like, oh, we could refactor this part, but we have to do this upgrade, so let's just not yet, and that kind of thing. A lot of just code base kind of maintenance as well. On the day-to-day, it's definitely enjoyable. I think the team culture is very positive. Everyone works together really well. We debug together, that kind of thing. It's good.
Yes. Also, we have done some audits, which I probably forgot to mention. We have worked on some security audits as well, so that led to some really nasty bugs, right? So those kind of takes time, and also sometimes you are stuck with a issue that you have Lotus, which is in Go, then you have Forest, and there's some form of mismatch, and then you are probably, some of the engineers are spending a lot of time or like a day or two working out those bugs. So that also takes up a lot of day-to-day kind of attention from our engineers. And the other thing that at ChainSafe, we also have other node implementation teams. We have Lodestar, which is Ethereum. For Ethereum, we have Gossamer, which is for Polkadot network, and we have Mina. For Mina, we don't have a name for that yet, but and a lot of the PMs on that protocol level, and also collaboration with the engineers, we meet and talk and kind of see that there are similar problems. That also helps us to navigate how to actually build a really good blockchain client. That's also something that happens on a regular basis internally at ChainSafe that maybe, Lotus and Forest doesn't have a lot of sharing there, yeah.
What about the culture of the team? Like, can you tell us about like what do you enjoy working on together? Are you all remote or are you in person? And yeah, how do you have fun together?
Yeah, so culture of the team is very, the same vibe, I would say, as we have for ChainSafe. It's very relaxed atmosphere, but I think the key difference that I've seen working with people in ChainSafe versus other places that I work is a general sense of curiosity and also a general sense of excellence to provide for the Web3 space, and I think that's also, I could say, the same for the team. It's really not a lot of people get excited about node implementations, right? Let's put that. But the people who work in our teams do, including me. I find it very interesting and fascinating how anybody can run a node and connect to this network, right? And I think it's same goes for everybody on the team, and they're just very passionate about what they're doing, and that's how you get through all these nasty bugs, right? You solve a bug for 3 days. You gotta have some sort of passion for that work that you're doing. Yeah, that's how I would put it. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess relating to that, I'd say like a lot of the developers and stuff at ChainSafe are very like intrinsically motivated to kind of work on these really hard problems, and would find it, I don't know, very satisfying, I guess, I think you have to be a little bit, you have to be into that kind of thing to work on node implementations. Definitely they're sometimes not that rewarding, sometimes they are extremely rewarding. It really kind of depends, kind of how you're feeling about it, honestly, sometimes even day to day. But in general, I think if you're very intrinsically motivated to kind of work on these tough problems that are very novel, solve interop issues, I don't know, the satisfaction of being able to do that, I think is, if you have that, I think it's really important, and I think most people at ChainSafe kind of do feel that, especially, on the Forest team.
Yeah, and also I think one thing is, I think it's very clear, at least in the Forest team and also different projects that we've worked in ChainSafe, that there's a lot to be done in the Filecoin network before it, stands on a very concrete foundation, and that's really exciting for us as well. We are building the future on a day-to-day basis. That is, and then I think it's something that members of the Forest team recognize, understand, and value. I think that's also important. Just wanted to add.
Yeah. Great. Now, Lotus team.
Before we switch to us, I'm interested in asking you a follow-up, Lee. How do you? It's great that you describe the team atmosphere as kind of relaxed. I've found that it is challenging to maintain that kind of environment. We try to keep Lotus very high fun.
Right.
But I'm interested in you potentially as someone PMing the team. How do you keep the atmosphere relaxed as best you can? I assume despite, whatever, the stresses of, our nodes fell out of sync or there's a deadline coming up and so on. Because I can imagine that's not easy.
Right. Very good question, Ayush. Thank you for pointing out. Yeah. Well, from what I've experienced and noticed is that you, as a TPM, sometimes, the burden of leadership falls onto you, whether you like it or not, right? And sometimes you're burning out fires. Sorry, not burning out fires, putting out fires. But it's also important. But it's also important for you to understand that the team will respond to your moods in a way, and the more relaxed and stress-free they are, they'll be able to contribute the best. If they're always on the edge, it's very difficult, and that's where kind of it falls on to me. And to build a very open and trust open communication and trust atmosphere. Like open communication is something that we really value at ChainSafe. Building a group that has really deep trust with each other. And if you're sick, you're sick. If you're, don't bother with small things, right? And that really helped to build this team. Yeah.
I think I agree with like Lee here. Sometimes I call like, what is a TPM? A troll party manager, maybe. So like I think like the fact that within the Lotus team, I never feel like I have to hold myself back. I can speak like very openly about what am I thinking. I never consider myself like just to tell people what to do. I want people to tell me constantly what I'm doing wrong and like how we can make things better together. It's like we are already working, I would say, pretty high intense pace to solve like a hard, like technical issues. Like I don't want to deal with like human beings, like issues like that. I generally like feel like we trust each other. Like we understand that no matter what people say, if we disagree with each other, we still have the shared goal. And once the consensus is reached, we keep thinking with each other and we keep like merging for this like little team network that we have. So yeah, I feel like being honest with each other, open communication, and share the same goal, and generally like enjoy working with each other, I think is a team culture for the Lotus team.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you'd be surprised how far being listened to and how far just creating that space of trust as well as open communication would go. There's also this 7-second rule that from one of the training I follow. Sometimes it's very hard to get the engineers talking, so I just wait for 7 seconds, no matter how uncomfortable it is, and then you'll be surprised. Some people start talking there, so that's a TPM tip right there.
All right,
Yeah,
let's dive into the Lotus team.
Yeah, I can speak to Lotus team culture a bit more.
Can
Definitely.
you start with the makeup of the team?
Sorry?
Can you start with the team, the
Oh, sure.
makeup? And
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a team of 4 software developers, including myself, Jennifer, our TPM extraordinaire, and 4 technical support engineers, which is a relatively new component of the team. Basically, it's folks who were already active members of the community, who'd been running the software for a long while, and therefore were very, very good candidates for people to help our users, help with community adoption, and just generally help manage and facilitate a lot of the project. So in total, we're a team of 9 engineers. Remote as well, so everyone's working from different parts of the world, which brings its own challenges. One of the biggest ones being it is a lot easier to misunderstand people when you're working in a remote setting because you don't have whatever the office cafeteria to go and chat about things afterwards. And so speaking to team culture, trying to keep things as informal and fun as possible is a constant effort, which happens in a high trust environment, I think. So there's a lot of silliness, a lot of laughter, a lot of looking at cats, because if not, you're not going to enjoy working on a team like that. And I'm very pleased that we managed to keep that going in the most stressful environments and at the most difficult of times. Additionally, extreme ownership. Genuinely in the extreme, folks have their kind of subdomains of expertise, but any problem that the Lotus team is facing is automatically everyone's problem. It often comes down to whoever is awake in that moment. It's everyone's responsibility to kind of be keeping an eye on what users and integration partners are facing and helping respond to something like that. High growth. In my experience, new folks who join the team call themselves the new person for maybe a month and a half before they're completely absorbed into the team, and you're pulled along with the train. I know I felt that way myself when I joined the team. I think that's one of the things that keeps the team moving well. I think, and then, the folks on the team are very smart and very eager to share knowledge. Lots of different skills. We have a fairly diverse team, which means we have a fairly diverse set of skills. And I know I've personally benefited from a lot of people being like, I'll spend an hour explaining how this thing works to you, even if that's not really relevant to what they're working on at the day to day. And we definitely try to keep that going as much as possible. It's why we're able to train even junior engineers fairly quickly. It's why we're able to move at the pace that we are. The the last thing I'll say is, yeah, the Lotus team is those 9 engineers that I mentioned, but one of the coolest things about working here is that the community and your users do feel like a part of the team. And that can sometimes just be in terms of the feedback that you get from them really drives product decisions and really drives priorities because they are in your DMs telling you what's wrong with the latest release or what you need to be focusing on. But also, this is the cool thing about working on open source software. They're opening PRs, and we're so grateful for it. There is no cooler feeling than waking up, looking at some PR that's been opened in the repository that you consider yours, and you look at it and go, I have wanted to do that for 6 months, and now this GitHub user that I've never heard of has done that for me. And that is an amazing feeling and is not uncommon. And I think obviously we're cannibalizing Filecoin's, not cannibalizing, but we're benefiting from Filecoin's momentum here. When there is that much interest in Filecoin in the project, that interest gets directed at Lotus as an extension of that. And that is so we do spend a lot of our time reviewing community PRs, but that's a high leverage way of getting things moving.
As sort of the technical project manager of the Lotus team, while I was not being silly with these peeps, the time I actually do some work sometimes, I spend a lot of time with other TPMs or other PMs in the network to understand, okay, so what's your need in 3 months or in 6 months from Lotus, as we are the shipping ship of a lot of the Filecoin network. So I also spend a lot of time on one-on-ones with our engineers and with our technical support engineers to understand what other ideas they have instead of just implementing others' ideas. Because for them to feel like they are still they still have the leverage to implementing whatever sparks the joy in their brain is also very important. So we kind of do agile planning, but not really, because as Filecoin network moves so fast, it's really hard to plan. However, how we do since these days is we do monthly sprint planning. It's shipping feature releases of Lotus just to do maybe 1 to 2 new features every month and fix some bug fixes and also invest some bug reports and things like that. And for us, we also do quarterly planning and have biannually planning just to understand the big projects for the Filecoin network. For example, FVM for the past 6 months, FVM M2 for the next 6 months, and maybe 2023 we have sharding different consensus for the Filecoin network. And for me, a part of my role is to understand the interests of each engineers and making sure whatever new use case or new research project comes to us, I make sure they know that immediately. So in Lotus team, we actually have every 2 weeks, we have 2 hours of thinking sections that we just review the FIPs, we discuss about the ideas, we talk about, okay, this is what Consensus Lab is doing. We have guest speakers to let us know the research project they're working on. So this is how we actually keep up with the network while doing very high intensive current problems. So that's how we do Lotus planning and working as a team.
Awesome. What about the culture highlights? What do you enjoy the most about working together?
Can I say that? I really trash talk with my team members, personalities or technology or whatever is sometimes we will be pushing a thing to get done. It's yo, this thing sucks. You better do a better job. And this is the way we communicate. Again, it's built on top of trust. We trust each other. That's why we are comfortable communicating with each other. We definitely set boundaries. Whenever someone cross the line, we will be very open about it. But we keep things very chill, very casual, a bunch of friends just hanging out and building this amazing piece of software.
Yeah, massive +1 on that. I think it's a group of high intelligence and high ownership folks working in a low ego and low stress environment. So and that genuinely feels very rare. And I think a lot of thought goes in how to maintain that, because because it really becomes fundamental to being able to work in a fast-moving environment like this. We're not. Potentially everyone feels this way about their jobs. I don't know, but it does not feel like a normal job. Like, right, it does not feel like a traditional software development job. There's just too much happening too quickly with so much change, and the ability to just be able to trust your team, to talk to them informally, to be able to ask them for, it would never be phrased as a favor, but to be able to say, hey, I'm not able to do this thing that I signed up for. Can you do it, even though I know that you have enough on your plate already? The ability to make jokes with each other, and to be able to, take each other not seriously at all while learning from each other. It's what keeps me happy to be on the team that I'm on.
That's awesome. Well, we are running way over. So I know both of the teams are hiring. So where can they contact you? So maybe Lotus team.
Everyone, basically all the roles that can contribute into the network. So engineering manager, we need to keep ourselves like on track, keep people happy. We also need Swiss, like software engineers, either junior or senior. Everyone can find a fit to Lotus as long as Go, understand Rust, and are interested in distributed storage network system. And technical support engineers, again, our community is growing. And this morning I checked for the Lotus help channel, we have like about 500 users, and I'm pretty sure that's only a part of the community we have on Filecoin Slack. So we need a lot of technical support engineers to support our users. Maybe some DevRel people, because if VM is coming, we want people to build. Tech writers to join, Johnny over there, like the field dev, docs team to generate great documentations for all the user groups of the Filecoin network. I feel like I'm missing. We are kind of hiring one of our maybe DevOps people, just because it's hard to run a Lotus node and a lot of infrastructure things that we need a lot of expertise. So if you know anyone or you are personally interested in that, please send your resume. I think it's Protocol Labs /Greenhouse, or just Google Protocol Labs job board. You will find a lot of open opportunities.
Great.
Yeah, for us, Twitter, ChainSafe Twitter, website, then there's an email, and then our GitHub repo, it's open, make PRs, you can contact us there. There's a discussion board there, you can post questions. That's basically how you can get for a first team.
Yeah, I'd say there's a careers page on ChainSafe where you can apply on the website. I'm not sure, exactly the roles that are open, but you can see on that page for sure. Yeah, definitely always good devs needed.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for building really amazing, dependable software. So thanks so much. Bye.